All right. Let's see. I'll wait here a little bit because it'll give me like a notification when. Oh, cool. Awesome. All right. Hello. Hello. We are live. Welcome to our Haunted Mansion live stream party. I am very excited for this. Thank you all for being here. We're so excited. Currently, it looks like we have about 7 people here. So definitely, let us know who's here in the chat. Leave us a little ghost emoji if you're here. We'd love to say hi after we got into some introductions here so you know who your little ghost hosts are. Super excited. Mandy, tell us a little bit about yourself, your channel, what kind of that looks like for you right now when it comes to what you're up to and what you're creating.
Yes, definitely. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So my name's Mandy Spooks, and I have a YouTube channel where we celebrate the magic of Halloween and spooky pop culture every day. And that kind of transforms through my Instagram as well. So I'm very active on both platforms. But my channel, I'm very excited. I recently relaunched Not Another Spooky Podcast as a video format on the channel. But between that, I also have Spookworm Club, which is like a spooky Halloween book club where I host like monthly readathon themes. But what I really love is that my community has really like taken it a step further and like watched movies and done activities. So they've really just made it like a monthly theme for the community, which is really exciting. So I try to kind of have a rotation of Spookworm Club and now the podcast. And then between that, just like fun, keeping the spook alive vlogs, whether it's like hunting, hauls, or just like daily things I'm doing to keep the spook alive in my life, honestly.
Yes, I love that. And I'm a sucker for a good theme. So it makes sense why we're kindred spirits.
Definitely. I think we both caught on to that right away.
Yes. And my name is Lauren. I have just celebrated my 1 year YouTube anniversary. It's cute that they give you like a little notification on the backside of like your YouTube stuff. It's so cool. And very similarly to Mandy, I center around Halloween in all its iterations. So it's really fun because it's kind of like my way to escape and kind of just be more playful and fun, have that facet of my life explored through books, movies, decor, just vibes. I've been really into like aesthetic vlogs recently where it's just like kind of like, the vibes, the atmosphere. It's super fun doing a lot of like spooky things. So the whole goal of this live stream is just to chat about all things Haunted Mansion. It looks like we have some folks in the chat that we wanted to say hello to. Thank you all for being here. On our little itinerary, we are going to look at some like Disneyland park lore and nostalgia, chat about the first Haunted Mansion movie. Maybe you've seen it recently, the more recently released one, no spoilers though, and then getting into some fun facts about the ride. So definitely just comment in the chat. We'll highlight them as they go. And we have some folks who are here. Hello, Amal. Thank you for being here. Hello, Liz. Hey, Samantha. I think I saw you said or mentioned at some point you saw the movie recently. So I'll be curious, or you had it like on your itinerary to like kind of watch at some point. Hello, Monica. Thank you for being here. Sometimes my button doesn't click on StreamYard. There we go. Taylor, hello. Thank you for being here, hanging out with us. Hey, Melissa. Ooh, I'm intrigued. What were you interested in? Your ears, yeah. Can you like highlight your ears for a second? Give us like a close up.
Yes.
They're so cute.
They have Madame Leota here, and then they have these like safety pins. I think they came out maybe, I don't know, about a year or two ago.
So cute. And did you get it from like a small shop or is it like a Disney official one?
These are Disney official ones. Yeah, they have I don't know what it says here now that I'm showing you live and on the spot, but there's like green text on them on both sides. So yeah.
Okay, that's cute because I feel like my issue with Disney merch is that it seems too childish and too like cartoony, and that's not that at all.
Yeah, the Haunted Mansion one, the ears are usually pretty good. I actually have something else to show and tell you. Mr. Spooks was like, you have to show them. He was joking that these were the ears he brought out of storage for me, but these are his ears, and they're the Hatbox Ghosts.
Okay, that is epic. Is that the hat that like goes like this? It's not ears.
It's like an actual hat.
It's so funny.
Yeah,
I love that.
I wish
you got that from Disney?
Yeah, these are Disney too. We had to get them like on eBay the year we were going to Disney because he wanted Hatbox ghost ears.
Like literally a hat.
Yeah.
It's so fun. It reminds me when I was growing up, like my first pair of ears from Disneyland is like the little caps that go like this. And then you have the
Yeah.
little plastic ears, and then we embroidered like our names on the back. It was so cute.
Yeah.
But yeah, very like nice for like not like movement and stuff. I love that. And then I have my little, I got a little haunted mansion. I don't know why I'm like not showing that, but my little
Oh,
necklace, I have that
cute.
here. Got my little ghosty earrings and a little bat. Because rookie mistake, I put my ears in my Halloween bin, and that's like at the very bottom of like basically all my stuff in my garage.
I know
uh,
how that goes.
Hello, Lo. Thank you for being here. Sabrina, hello. Yes, it's the OG Leota. I love that. Those are really cute ears.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so I'd be curious to get things going. This is something that I feel like fits in with a lot of people's interests in Disney. I feel like there's like, if you are well aware of like how pop culture and fandom works and operates when it comes to like the Disney world, I don't know if there's another ride that has this level of like fandom to it, where you have people that write books, they have YouTube channels literally dedicated to this, podcasts like that deep dive into this. And there are people that aren't just like having 100, 1,000 listeners or viewers. It's like in the thousands upon thousands. So it's like an epic community of people who love haunted mansions. So why do you think it's so popular? It's not even like one of the OG rides of Disney. What do you think?
Man, I was thinking about this and I feel like people like things that they feel they shouldn't like, if that makes sense, especially because like this reawakening in like the spooky community over the last couple of years, like spooky has become very cool, right? But over the like before that, I feel like it was a little taboo. It was a little like mysterious, like we shouldn't talk about death or spooky things. So I feel like deep down it's always been this like curious like mystery people have, like is it okay to like haunted mansion year round? And I think like for me personally, growing up when I hadn't embraced this like spooky lifestyle, for me it was just this like happy place because no matter what time of year, it was something spooky you could do to celebrate that like lifestyle or that spooky element of life that you really like. What about you?
Yeah, I think that's so true. And what comes up to mind to me when I hear you say that is like I think there is this alignment between this renaissance of Halloween with its popularity, and then also Haunted Mansion's popularity. And I think it makes sense why they'd want to do a new movie, especially since the first one really flopped. Why they'd want to do a new movie 20 years later, right now, because Halloween is kind of quote unquote in. It's like kind of trendy, I would
Yes.
say, in ways I don't think it was like previously. And I think it's also true. I agree wholeheartedly with like, this is a safe way for us to like talk about these really kind of like hard, heavy topics in a way that's super playful and not as heavy, because that's very much like the ride itself. It's like both goofy and serious at like certain points in the journey of it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's where it makes it like, I guess I'm losing the word, but you know, like something like easier for people to swallow, like because it's this like
Mm.
fun, corny thing, it's not as like heavy and serious for them to really face it, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, yeah. Makes it more like digestible, more palatable, I
Yes,
guess.
digestible. Thank you. That happens to me all the time. I forget the word
Yes.
I'm trying to think of.
Absolutely. Yeah, same. And then somebody mentioned Lo. Thanks for interacting with us here. Definitely, anytime somebody has a comment, I have that comment thread up. So feel free to chat. Lo says that their favorite is when they do the transition from regular Haunted Mansion to the Night Before Christmas one. And they keep it during that Christmas season. So I'm actually going for the very first time because it actually works with my schedule, not being a contracted teacher this year. I'll be doing other things. And I'm like, okay, this is my one opportunity probably, because I'm going to be, back to the more strict schedule where I don't have any October break. And this time I have a flexibility where I could actually go to Halloween for the very first time in my life during the overlay for Haunted Mansion. I'm so stoked. Have you ever experienced that at either Disneyland or Disney World?
Yes, I have experienced it at Disneyland, and you are in for a treat. I actually have a funny story for you about that. So I had like never met a Disney character before. Like I had heard from friends how they get like nervous, or I don't know, it's just this like weird feeling when you meet a character. And it was by coincidence that Jack and Sally were like greeting people that were in line for the overlay. So I highly recommend trying to find them if you can. And I was so starstruck by Sally. She was just like so beautiful. And she started touching like my necklace. And she's like, "Oh, your necklace is so beautiful," because it had like pumpkins on it. But I was just like smitten and like shocked because she was so beautiful. So I highly recommend trying to find them while you're there because it's an experience.
Oh yes, I'll hunt for them. And it's so funny because my boyfriend, I'll be going with him and I'm like, okay, I want to go X amount of times. He's like, how many times do you want to go on that ride? I'm like, maybe five, maybe a little bit more. And so I'm like trying to strategize my way of doing that in a way that works for both of us. But didn't you, speaking of Sally, didn't you read the Pumpkin Queen book recently too?
Yes, I that was what started my entire Spookworm Club journey because I just fell in love with reading after reading that book. I'm still waiting for you to read it because I'm dying to know your thoughts.
This October, I promise.
Yes, I'm ready. I'm like ready to hear your thoughts. But yes, I really love it. I feel like it doesn't really stay true exactly to the characters as you know them, but I feel like it really brings you to like a modern time where they're relatable, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
And it just gives you all of the fall vibes, honestly. So I think it's the perfect time for you to read it too, like around the time you're going. Cause like for me personally, when I go for Halloween, I'm like, I don't know if I want like Nightmare Before Christmas just yet. Like for me, it's a Christmas thing, but the book really has like fall vibes. So I feel like it would go really well if you're trying to theme your trip around
Oh
the Haunted
yes.
Mansion overlay. Yeah.
Oh yeah, perfect. Okay, I'm absolutely going to do that. And then for those that are watching, we're talking about the Pumpkin Queen. That's the book title, right?
Long live the Pumpkin Queen. Mhm.
Long live. Okay, cool, awesome. Yeah. So if you have read that book, if you have like any honest thoughts on that, let us know. And that's something I'm for sure going to be reading. And I think it'd be awesome if I did it like right before I went. That'd be
Yeah.
cool. That's awesome. And then I purposely have not um, watched any videos where like they're walking you through the actual overlay experience of going through the ride. I'm like, I want to go fresh. I want to go without any visuals in my brain so I could just be like in awe of everything.
Yeah, it is beautiful. Like I agree on what on going through it several times, especially if it's your first time, because like you'll notice something new every single time you go through it.
Oh, okay, cool. Then that's my excuse to go through it like six times.
Yes, definitely. Why not make it 10?
I know it's even round number. Melissa said that they've been to Disney World in Florida 8 times. And one of my favorite rides is the Haunted Mansion. You're in great company. I didn't go until I was 30. So I love Disney. Oh my God, absolutely. Have you, Mandy, ever been to Disney World at all?
You know, I went when I was like a younger teen, so I feel like I don't really remember it as well as I would like to be honest. But I've been to Disneyland a few times over the last 10 years, I think. And I agree, like Halloween time at Disney is just like my ultimate happy place.
Yeah, I am so excited. I want that iconic photo in front of the big, oh my God, I love your mug so much.
Oh, thank you.
I love it. I want that iconic photo in front of the big pumpkin Mickey head.
Yes.
I want that. So I'm really excited. Do you know if there's any like dessert or like food items that they always have, or do they kind of like roll out new things?
So I think I don't know if they have recurring ones, but they definitely have like Halloween treats all the time. And like I highly recommend this. Like my favorite thing to do is get a PSL inside the park before starting my day. Like that's just my ritual if I go during Halloween time. So there's like a shop, there's like a Starbucks inside, and then I think like across from it, there's like a bakery type area that has those treats.
Okay, so start the morning with a pumpkin spice latte, coffee, get a little treat, and then kind of go about my day. Oh,
And take your pictures. Yes, yeah. I so anytime I go to Disney, I'm just like go 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 because I want to do everything. But for some reason, like when I go for Halloween, I just like slow down and take it all in because it's the most magical time of the year.
okay, thank you. I need that because I have like this sense of urgency since I don't necessarily live super close to Disneyland. I'm like, I got to do all the things, I got to fit it all in. But we'll be going to Disneyland park like 2 days. And then we're going to be doing Oogie Boogie. So I'm like, okay, I can just calm down. I could relax. I will do all the things I need to do. But have you ever been to the Oogie Boogie Bash parties before?
Yes, I went 2 years ago and it was so much fun. It really makes you feel like a kid again because you're like trick or treating again and you get the chance to meet so many villains and characters that aren't normally out. So it was a really fun time.
Okay, awesome. Because it was something where I was like, okay, it does sound like it's more of like a kid friendly, kid targeted event. But I have a cousin who's like super into Disney. They go often. It's like something that they don't even blink an eye at. They're like, yeah, for sure, we're going. And they're like in their early 20s. So I'm like, and they're like magic key holders. So they're like really into Disney. So I was like, okay, I got to do it at least one time. And then getting the tickets was wild. You're like waiting forever. And there's like
I
some
know.
people who never got them.
Yeah, and make sure you like dress up because then you're gonna feel left out. I chose to do like a spooky outfit versus a costume, and now actually I loved what I did, but I definitely had a little bit of FOMO as far as like I didn't go all in into an actual costume. And then I don't know if they still have it this year. Sorry, I don't really like keep up with Disney unless I'm going because then I just get really sad that I can't be there. But
Oh,
the year I
understandable. Yeah.
went, they had a Coco themed festival, which was really awesome because I saw so much of like my culture come through and Dia de los Muertos. So if they still have that, I highly recommend going like a little bit earlier if you can, so that you can actually enjoy that part before Oogie Boogie starts.
Okay, cool. And so people actually like go all out with their costumes at the Oogie Boogie Bash?
Some people do, yeah. Like some people do stuff that's like more for comfort. Like they make a costume based around being comfortable the whole night, and some people go all out. So it's really nice because it's really like a traditional Halloween almost, where like everyone's in costume trick or treating, and that's the aspect that I loved about it. It just felt like very nostalgic in a way because that's not how the streets are anymore, unfortunately, during Halloween. So it definitely gives you those vibes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. You're like throwing down all of this for me because I feel like I haven't been in Disneyland in a minute. Maybe like, yeah, it was like 2 summers ago, and I've never done this around like Halloween seasonal time. So thank you for your wisdom.
No
Okay.
problem.
Lo is also coming in with some words of wisdom as well. So if you plan on going in October, I highly recommend doing the trick or treat event, which I think maybe might be the Oogie Boogie Bash. You get to mingle with all the villains. Yes, I hope I interact with the evil queen from Snow White. That's like my person.
We are so alike. It's crazy.
I also feel like the let's see, probably Captain Hook. That would be one I feel like, but I feel like I see him a lot in the park in like the fairy tale land.
Oh, really? I don't think I've ever seen him. I don't think I have seen him.
Let's see here. Yes, Oogie Boogie Bash at Disneyland. Technically, California Adventure is very cool. Unfortunately, it's sold out for 2023. Yeah, so we had to go online. And also, sorry, folks, if I like sound delayed or whatever. I feel like my internet is doing some weird stuff. So I'll just kind of make sure I'm pausing so I don't sound odd. But we had to wait online for tickets. And it was a good chunk of time where we were just waiting on that website. Like I probably blacked it out of my brain because it took some time. Maybe like over 2 hours we waited. And some people waited so long and they just never got tickets. And I saw people online during and after, like really dismayed at like the way it was set up. And it even crashed the first time when people were trying to get tickets. Like the website couldn't accommodate it.
I know. I feel like it's like that every year too. It's wild.
Oh, really? The website kind of doesn't know how to meet the demand or doesn't like set up for it?
I think so. I think this year it might have actually like crashed unlike other years, but even the year that I got my tickets, I think I was like in the virtual queue for like 2 to 4 hours, somewhere around there. So it's pretty crazy to me how popular it is every single year.
Okay, so then it's not the one year where like everybody's trying to get tickets to Oogie Boogie Bash. It's
Yeah,
like kind
it's
of just the
every
thing
year.
recently. Okay, gotcha.
Spooky is in. What can we
I know
say?
it is. I really think it is. Yes. And I'm here for it. Yes, Melissa says they normally have special Halloween themed snacks. Yeah, I want to I'm going to do my research because I'm kind of like really type A when I travel. I'll do like day by day itinerary. But for this one, I think I'll just do it by park. Like my deal breakers were like, I have to do certain things, right? Like go to Haunted Mansion or, get that coffee or get like a certain treat. So I'll like research and see like what they've already released. Because by the time I've gone, it's been like the Halloween season for about a month. Because I think it starts in early September, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Gonna do
Something
my
I
little
would
research.
recommend is every time I go to Disney, I watch the Magical Journeys. I think that's their name. Magical Journeys on YouTube, and they
Okay.
do like their entire focus is covering the food at Disney. So they're really great to watch because I think they're very honest about what tastes good, what doesn't, what looks really awesome. So they do like a full tour of like all the Halloween treats at Disney, and they give you their honest review. So I would recommend checking them out. They're legit at Disney food.
Okay, I tabbed them because that's like one of the top things I really love about Disneyland is the food experiences and how like you never know at what part of the park in the different lands they'll have like special things that you just like stumble upon. You're like, I can't get that across the park. Like it's just so special and so fun.
Yeah.
The first thing I think of was like that like turkey leg.
Oh yeah. And the
I think that's like
churros.
yes, yes. I think you can get those like in Frontierland, right?
I am not sure. It's been a hot minute since I've been.
It's definitely one of my things on my bucket list to visit Disneyland land during Halloween. Yes, and it's been on mine, and I'm excited. I had to wait and be patient. Oh my gosh, I had the pass for 4 years, and I still haven't explored the entire park. I know. That's the reality, and I have to like in my head get over this idea that like it's even possible to do everything you want to do with Disneyland. I just got to like let go and accept it.
Unfortunately. Enjoy it.
Some people's costumes are full on cosplay. Okay, do you remember any people like what they dressed up as when you went to the Oogie Boogie Bash?
Honestly, I'm totally blanking. I don't remember any specifics, but I remember seeing everyone dressed up. Like the majority of people do dress up to some extent, even if it's like just wearing those like t-shirts that have like prints on them that look like costumes, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So I'm sure you could put something easy together. I would definitely though say to prioritize comfort because it's a long night. There's a lot of walking, of course, and the worst thing is when you're like trying to have fun and you're just like not having it with what you're wearing.
Okay, I don't know if this has always been my issue when I've been at Disneyland, as I've been like, because I live in California, so it's kind of accessible, but I've always been in Northern California. So I've gone frequently, and I feel like the past maybe decade I've gone, I feel like I cannot, like my back, my lower back, my legs, like so sore. I don't know if it's like a shoe situation, but I feel like I'm getting older and I could track that by like how hard it is for me to like just survive a day or two at the park.
It's so true. I literally was talking to my mom like a week ago, telling her, I cannot believe I wore flip flops, like old Navy flip flops to Disney World the first time I went an entire week. And now I'm like a grandma. I have to wear like very specific shoes to survive. I don't know what I was
Yeah,
thinking with flip flops though.
because you were like a kid, right?
Yeah.
So funny. Yeah. And it's like I look at all these like cute costumes online to get like inspiration or like outfits. And I'm like, okay, yeah, those shoes are like not working for me. But I do have an idea for a couple's costume for Oogie Boogie. Because one of my favorite like non-spooky Disney movies is Ratatouille. So I thought it'd be cute if my boyfriend was the chef and I was a little rat. And I feel like it's so easy just to do like an ear situation. So
That would
I
be
think I might go
so
with that.
cute. I love
But
it.
it'd be perfect because he's like more of like the cook, like he does all the cooking and I'll like do like the cleaning after. So it's like hilarious if like you knew us as like a couple. So I'm hoping.
That's super cute and also like very original. You won't be seeing like a bunch of people wearing the same thing you're wearing. So I love it.
Yay! And Melissa says normally you can get in before official start time. Check out your ticket. This is a great hack to get ahead of the game for merch and snacks. Okay, I'm gonna double check that because it'd be nice to have some time to like enjoy the quietness before it gets like super hot and like filled with people because it can get like really crowded. I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
Evil Queen is a great meet. She really interacts with visitors. This reminds me, I don't know if it's still there because I think they redid the fairy tale land, but I always love being in line for the Peter Pan ride. and then you turn and you would see like the evil queen opening up. I think it's like an animatronic, like up in the castle. But I think they redid Sleeping Beauty's castle, and she's not there anymore. If anybody's been recently and they know, let me know. But I love her.
I don't think I ever saw that, but it sounds cool.
Hello, Nightshade Butterfly. Thank you for being here. Yes, I got to bring all the drugs. Out of context, it doesn't make sense, but like, yes, I love it. I love it. Thank you, Lo. I do. I really need to like make sure I pack that. Lots of sunscreen, lots of water, all of that. Comfortable shoes. I probably need to get new shoes for like this specific purpose. I love it.
Break them in before you go, though.
That is so smart. I would probably forgotten that. I'd like to know, Miss Mandy Spooks, what do you have like any stories that like surround the ride itself, or anything that like you remember, like when like your first times you've ever been on the ride? Do you have any stories to tell?
Well, I got excited and told my meet and greet story, but I actually have a ghost story I would love to share with you, if that's okay.
Yes.
So my best friend was formerly known, or still is known as my familiar, just most people don't know that, because he used to help me produce a lot of my content. And he actually works for Disneyland, and he had a friend that was a cast member in the actual Haunted Mansion ride. So they actually shared a ghost story with me a few years ago, and I would love to share it again, just because I think it's so cool to hear like an actual ghost story about the Haunted Mansion.
Yes, lay it down.
Okay, let me pull it up. Okay, so there are many ghosts that are rumored to haunt Disneyland's Haunted Mansion. One of them is a little boy with red eyes. A cast member named Matthew was working the unload position, which is the position at the end of the ride where guests are escorted out of their doom buggies. In front of the cast members, behind the guests getting out of the doom buggy, are two mirrors. One mirror faced forward so that cast members could see behind them, and one mirror angled to the right to keep an eye on guests exiting the ride. One late night shift around 10 to 11 p.m., when there weren't many guests anymore, Matthew took a look at the mirror and saw a little boy with bright red eyes looking back at him sitting in the doom buggy. The boy's head was turned back to the left side of the buggy, looking directly at him. Matthew was startled and worried someone was still in the buggy, so he stopped the ride to prevent the buggy from going back in. He walked back to the doom buggy and nobody was in there. A while later, Matthew saw him again while working another position. This position required him to keep an eye on guests through CCTV. On a different night, around the same time as his previous encounter, there weren't that many guests on the ride, so he was watching a couple go through the ride. He spotted them at the seance room where the guests circle around Madame Leota. He then followed them to the ballroom scene, but when he changed cameras, he saw a little boy sitting in between them. He thought maybe he missed the boy in the previous scene, so he didn't think much of it. He then followed them to the attic, but when he looked at the camera, there was no boy again. He was gone. He followed them all through the ride, and the boy never appeared again. There are allegedly multiple encounters from other cast members who have seen the little boy, but my familiar really believed him because he actually experienced how he felt afterwards retelling the story.
So your friend who helps you make content, he had told you this story and he had heard it directly from the person who experienced seeing this like little boy with red eyes. Okay, gotcha. And so he was able to get like the firsthand emotional like experience of like them telling this.
Yes. He told me he was like clearly like panicked when he was telling the story.
Yeah, which to me, unless you're a really great actor, it's hard to fake that.
Yeah, because I can imagine too, like the adrenaline you feel after when you're like, oh my God, I saw this. Like, so he experienced it firsthand. So he does believe him and think it's real. And I would be curious to hear, like, someone should do a documentary on this, on like all of the ghost stories about the Haunted Mansion, because I mean, there's so many stories about it that I'm sure we could start to connect pieces. That would be really fun.
And this reminds me more of like the dark side of the ride, because there are many reports of people like going through the ride and leaving like cremated remains of their family members there. Like there was one time I read online where a family had stopped one of the people who were overseeing the ride, and they told them, or asked and requested, like, in memorial for our sibling who passed away, can you just like pause the ride and kind of like make it a little bit longer for us to kind of like have a little memorial? And they're like, okay, sure, yeah, like out of respect, that's fine. And then they see on the cameras, they're dropping like the cremated remains of that person on the ride. And after that, it's happened multiple times where people are in the ride and they're just like throw it and they have to stop the whole ride. They have to go and clean it up. It's like a thing people do.
Yeah, and there's like an actual, that was another thing I learned from my friend. They even have like an actual code name for when they have to stop the ride for that, because they have like code V for vomit or something, and then they have, I forgot what the code is, but there's like an actual code for like clean up ashes. So yeah, it's a pretty frequent thing.
Oh my God, that's hilarious that it's so frequent that they have to have a code name for it for all the cast members
Yes.
to know like when it's happening.
Yeah. That's why I feel like, granted, they clean everything up, but there has to be some kind of like spiritual thing happening there with the amount of ashes that pass through the ride.
Yeah, it's so creepy, and it reminds me of another creepy aspect of a Disneyland ride that's like really close by. Have you heard that on the Pirates of the Caribbean, the bed with like the skull and crossbones is like actually human remains?
I have not heard that. Like, is
Yeah,
that true though?
yeah, yeah.
I did not know that. That is very spooky. I love that
I
little
know.
fun fact.
I know, it's so weird. It's like kind of odd. Like I don't know how that's okay, but I've read it in multiple reputable sources. It may or may not be true, but I don't know. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
And then another thing that I think is fascinating about this ride that kind of makes it um strange because they do a good optical illusion of like hiding this fact, but like the majority of the ride is like actually underground at Disneyland. I think it's different in Florida because of the water table, I guess, like whatever all that stuff is. But you're actually like going underground with the elevator, and then your whole ride is basically underground. To me, that's so unnerving that when you're in the hallway
Yeah.
and it's like the storm outside, you're like actually underground. Like that's so creepy to me. I That makes me feel like claustrophobic a little bit.
Yeah. It is pretty scary. They do a good job of not making you realize that.
Yeah, optical illusions, they're the people for that. Hello, thank you for being here. I saw a couple dump ashes into the water at Pirates. They got taken away by security.
Oh,
That is so wild to me. Like
yeah.
for one, it's gross. For two, like that to me to see that with my own eyes, I'd be like, oh my God, did I just see that? That sounds so surreal.
I know. And they do, by the way, take, I think anytime you do it, you are taken away by security. So just don't do it. Like,
So wild to me. Yeah, Monica, total biohazard to dump cremains in the ride. So it's like a huge Disney no-no and probably like maybe possibly kicked out of the park. That sounds frightening.
yeah.
My family and I got stuck on the Pirates ride last summer. It was so creepy being in the swamp area and the animatronics still running.
I could picture that being creepy.
Yeah, that's not fun. I think I was stopped at a I've been stopped at the Haunted Mansion. It was a day where the park I went on it multiple times at that ride, but I feel like that ride that day at the park was very dysfunctional. And we stopped like backwards on the doom buggy. So we're just like hanging out backwards right before we get to the graveyard scene, which apparently is you getting thrown out of the window and dying. And then that's why you could see all the ghosts. I didn't know that until I was like researching some stuff. And then the ride moved on a little bit. And then I'm like staring, it stops again. And I'm staring right at the graveyard. I'm like, okay. Scary. So frightening. Lo says it's crazy that people waste their time jumping their loved ones' ashes just to be vacuumed back up by crew members. Yeah.
That's how I feel about it as well.
Yes.
And getting kicked out after that as well. It's not worth it.
Yes, I know. It truly is not because you go there. I'm assuming that ride is like, so beloved. Do you have a favorite character on the ride?
I love Madame Leota, especially just because of the history behind it. I don't know how much you know about it, but the woman who plays Madame Leota is actually one of the original Imagineers.
Yeah, tell us more about that. Yeah, because I want to know all about that. Because women, a part of Disney, is or any kind of horror or like movie, any kind of industry like that that has kind of intersects with that is always fascinating to me. So I'd love to know like what you know about who inspired the character and who does the character of Madame Leota.
Yeah, I don't remember the details like very clearly, but I do know that it was an Imagineer and her name was actually Leota Tomb, I believe. And she had like very high cheekbones, so they thought that she'd be perfect to actually play the character. So I don't really know how the story came to be, but I know that they really loved like the way she looked to play her. And then later for the Nightmare Before Christmas overlay, they actually had her daughter do like I think like one part of the Christmas overlay. But one of my favorite stories that I've ever heard is, and it's like so heartwarming, is that the daughter used to tell her kids like, that's your grandma, when they get on the ride. And she just talks about how like anytime she's like working the ride or there at night, it's just like this reminder that like her mom is still with her, which I think is like so endearing and like emotional. But it's so beautiful to think that like someone has that experience and that Madame Leota is like actually their mom and like the memory of their mom for them.
That is so freaking sweet. And I'm sure people like overhear that. They're like, what? What is going on?
You weird spooky girls.
I know, I love that. Liz says this whole combo was so eye-opening. Disney is missing an opportunity not having a memorial garden where ashes could be scattered. That's funny.
Actually, that is a really good idea.
Monica says, hi, I follow you both. The Haunted Mansion ride is my favorite. The lines were insane though. Take an umbrella. Yeah, you're in good company. We are super into Haunted Mansion, and that is actually so freaking smart to take an umbrella to Disneyland because it's like we're going the heat, right? You would think, oh, umbrella when it gets like rainy. That is so freaking smart because I'm going to be having a backpack anyway. That's brilliant. Okay, I have to remember that to take an umbrella to like spare me from any kind of sun fatigue and any kind of sunburns.
Yeah, I
That's
had
brilliant.
actually never thought of that. That's a great tip.
Okay, so in the chat, let us know what your favorite character on the ride is. What about Madame Leota beyond just like the kind of the history behind that? What do you like about is like the scene? Is it her character, her backstory? What like appeals to you about her as like your favorite character?
I think it's more so just my like entire vibe for women empowerment. Like she's just like such an icon, and I think like she is probably alongside Hatbox Ghost. I'd actually say that she's probably one of the most popular ones. And to me, I just love that aspect of it because she's like a female icon in spooky pop culture. So that's what I really love about it. And I mean, I love that it's just like this entire like storytelling part of who she is like she's the one kind of like walking you through the ride almost or telling the
Oh
story in a
yeah.
way.
And like kind of orchestrating it all literally with like, calling the spirits up and like all the little
Yeah.
instruments that are around the scene. Yeah, she's really cool. She's super iconic. And then getting a little bit into like the movie thing here before I share like who my favorite character is. Which Madame Leota do you prefer? Do you prefer the 23 version or the 2003 version? I always get my numbers mixed up. Which, if you had to choose which Madame Leota, who do you think is the better version of it?
I was a bigger fan of the 2003 version played by Jennifer Tilly. I think that she just really encompassed like the playfulness of the ride. And yeah, I unpopular opinion, I wasn't a big fan of the Madame Leota in the new one.
Is it popular? Because I feel like I've gotten some I've read a lot of stuff where people like they feel like she overacted. So I feel like that's the major thing I see about her role.
Yeah, I just felt like it was she was just like very serious in comparison to Jennifer Tilly playing it, I think. And I was just like constantly aware of the fact that it was Jamie Lee Curtis, which is great. Like she is an icon in Halloween pop culture, obviously, because of Michael Myers. But I don't know, it just wasn't quite what I expected. It was very like serious and overplayed, in my opinion.
I wholeheartedly agree. I feel like I like the backstory being more fleshed out in the more recent Haunted Mansion movie for the character of Madame Leota. However, I felt like visually, the crystal ball that she's in, even though it's like older, I like the 2003 visuals for that crystal ball, way better than the more recent one. I think that one looked way too CGI. And I think there was a lot of like CGI stuff happening in that movie that was like overdone. And then I think that the sound and the visuals of the actor Jennifer Tilly in the 2003 version just looks so much like the Madame Leota that we know and love from the ride, and just feels more authentic and not like I'm performing, that kind of thing.
Yes, yes. It feels very like light, if that makes sense. Like just light, and the new one feels very like, I don't know, like heavy, serious, not exciting and playful. I don't know.
I wholeheartedly agree. Yeah. And then my favorite character on the ride, I 110% have to say Constance Hatchaway is my 100% favorite character. When it comes to the movie, I feel like a lost opportunity. I liked in the 2003 version, you kind of got a little bit of like an illusion to her with the character, like the plot, the major story plot point. But I feel like because that's like some of my favorite parts of the ride, I love the attic. It's so like maybe it's because like the history lover in me, but like it's very historical, but like creepy. I love historical creepiness. And I would just love like to, if there's like a book or something that like explored that more, like the backstory of like how she just like, you know, murdered all these like husbands. I just think it's one of my favorite tropes is like the bride ghost kind of thing. So I wish there was just more backstory in the actual movie for Constance Hatchaway, because she's such an interesting character that could be like a villain that you kind of give like maybe a little bit of empathy toward, knowing like women and their opportunities, a lack thereof, in like certain time periods. I think they missed the opportunity in the more recent movie to like make her more of a interesting part of the story.
Yeah, man, as you were saying that, I could just envision this like amazing prequel of like how the mansion gets haunted, and now I'm like yearning for that in my heart. Thank you very much for that. I think
Yeah, and then
really good.
A lot of people also would love a prequel, not a prequel, but like, well, yeah, maybe it could be a prequel, but people would want to go to the Crump estate, the manor, which is supposed to be like an allusion to the Disney World park. They wanted like more of like that kind of storyline to be like fleshed out a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
And kind of similarly here, I'd love to know, what is like your number one favorite part of the ride? Some folks have already shared that they love the Hatbox Ghost, which is so iconic. I didn't realize this until recently, but apparently the Hatbox Ghost was created in a part of the ride that wasn't where the Hatbox Ghost was going to be placed when it was finished. And so they thought that it had worked as an illusion in one part of the ride, and then they moved it to another part, and then it didn't work, like the place where they wanted it. So they had to like kind of scratch it, keep him in storage until more like recent Imagineer fixed it up again. And then now it's like actually a part of the ride and a huge part of the movie. So
I didn't know that. That's
iconic.
interesting.
He's iconic. And then obviously all three of the hitchhiking ghosts who have names. Do you know any of their names?
I don't.
So apparently, I wrote it down here. So you have like three of them. The guy who's in chains, his name is Gus. He's like the prisoner. And then there's like the guy who looks like a traveler. He's Phineas. And then there's the one that looks like a skeleton, kind of has like a skeleton face, and his name is Ezra. And apparently they were actually named by people, like fans of the ride, not even like actual Imagineers.
Oh,
Monica
that's super
knows.
cool.
Monica knows. I love it. So getting to like our favorite parts of the ride, Lo says the entire ride in the ballroom scene, when they first opened the ride, it was the most advanced tech in the park. It's still my favorite scene for the ride. Monica agrees with both of us on Leota. The backstory was very welcome, but I preferred Till's performance. Yeah, we wholeheartedly agree. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I think Madame Leota should have been portrayed by an actress who looked more like the Madame Leota in the ride. Yeah, I think we would agree here. If you had to choose, I know it's hard, especially since the beginning of the ride is way more serious and dark, and then opens up into a little more playful silliness. If you had to choose, I know it's tough. And those in the chat box, definitely let us know what your favorite part of the ride is. What would you choose? What would you say is like your favorite part? Because it's kind of it's tough.
I think I want to say probably the stretching room, only because that like really sets the tone. Like, how are you going to get any better than that at that point? And then you still are impressed after that. So I think the stretching room is just so iconic because it adds this element to of like you're already in a ride before you're like in a ride. And I think that was just so clever of them.
Yes, and especially behind the scenes where you don't realize it, it's like actually taking you down underground, which is so creepy when I think
Yes.
about that. Because I didn't know that before I've gone on the ride. I realized it like very recently, and I'm gonna go on the ride and like be freaked out. But maybe that's all of the fun of it.
Yeah.
I, I think because also, gosh, there's like even outside of it, like in the queue, it's between probably the ballroom scene because I love like the girl who's like blowing out the candles and them dancing, and it just feels like it's very like 1800s, like a party of like, it's like dark and mysterious in the atmosphere. I remember going through that ride 2 summers ago and thinking to myself, I wish there were books that had this kind of atmosphere that I could like bottle up because I love the Haunted Mansion so much. And then I started kickstarting my love for like fiction reading after that. So I think I kind of credit the Haunted Mansion with giving me this like rejuvenation with like my reading again. Cause I'm like, how can I capture and bottle up the mysteriousness, the intrigue, the just like the atmosphere is like like uncomparable, I guess, incomparable to like
Yeah, it's so
anything
funny you
else.
say that because as I was getting ready for this live, I was actually thinking like, man, I wish I knew of like books that encapsulate like the fun playfulness and the spookiness of this movie because like it's just been in my head and I'm like right there with you. I'm just like, if anyone has any book recommendations of like the spooky cute merge with like the playfulness and spookiness, I want to be around it as well.
Oh, same. And the amount of times I've searched online for like books like The Haunted Mansion or books with like a evil ghost bride and come up with like nothing. It's like so sad. So sad.
Yeah.
So I think I'd have to choose the ballroom scene because I do love, oh God, but also like the attic because it's so like, I like the whole like Victorian bride, like dusty kind of setting. But I get so happy every time I go into the ballroom scene on the right. Okay, I'll go with the ballroom. Okay, I'll choose that. I'll choose that. And so folks have mentioned their favorites as well. Hello, Jessica. I'm clicking on yes, ballroom. Okay, yes, ballroom. It's so beautiful. And then there's also like the are you familiar with like the Pepper's ghost illusion? Yeah, so what do you know about
Yes.
that?
I have a very hard time explaining it. But pretty much it's like what Mr. Spooks always explains it to me. It's like what they did with the Tupac hologram at Coachella. I don't know if you're familiar, but they
Yeah.
use like a transparent screen or like mesh screen almost to project off of. I think you might know more than I do, to be honest, as far as how to explain it.
And that's the basic gist of it. So to get the ghosts, whether it's the one that's like blowing out the candle and the birthday cake, or like the people who are dancing and going around in circles, there's like this really old illusion from like the 1800s called Pepper's Ghost, and it basically just involves like projecting things onto mirrors in like another room that's like not seen by people, and so you're able to like get this like scene on the other side, which I'm probably not explaining it well at all because I feel like I have questions about my explanation. Like, how does
Yeah, it's hard to explain.
yes. I love it though. Liz says the graveyard is their favorite part of the ride, probably because I grew up across the street from a cemetery. I love it. It's a second home. It was definitely the Gothic garden for me. I have a lot of fun as my knowledge grows about the Haunted Mansion, trying to pick out the real names of people that show up on the tombstones as you're waiting in the queue to get on the ride.
That's so fun. Yeah, like I
I
said, it
mean,
doesn't matter how many times you've wrote it, you will always like notice a new detail. That's what I love about it.
yes, and I don't remember, does the Disneyland one have a Madame Leota tombstone? Because I know for sure Disney World has one, but does Disneyland?
I am not sure, to be honest. I don't feel like I've gone through it enough times. I think maybe like less than 5 times in my whole life I've been on it.
I can't remember if there was like actually a Madame Leota one, but I am okay. On my list is to go to the Haunted Mansion ride in Disney World because apparently there's like this whole thing you can do that's like kind of like a murder mystery or like some type of like game experience that you can kind of like put clues together. I read it in like an online blog that talked about like prep before you go to Disney World, and it's like there's like clues left you in the queue as you're going into the ride and stuff, and then you kind of have stuff like on the outside of it. I want to be able to do that sometime, but not yet.
That's
Not yet.
cool. I hadn't heard about that.
Thinking about this conversation reminds me of a small scene in Ready Player One, the ballroom scene. Do you know this? I don't know this.
I love that. Okay, you need to see it. There is like an iconic scene that also references The Shining in it. It is so cool. I don't want to say more because I feel like that'll ruin it for a lot of people, but she is right. I agree. That is a great reference.
Okay, so I looked it up. Ready Player One. It's like a sci-fi adventure movie that came out in 2018. What's the premise of it?
It's basically like if VR became extremely popular and most people are living in like this virtual reality. I don't remember the premise. I think he's trying to like save something, but there's so many pop culture references in it, like a ton. You get so many cameos of different like pop culture icons throughout history, so it's a must watch if you love pop culture. It's really fun.
Okay, cool. I tabbed that. I'm gonna go to that, especially with this ballroom scene. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Thank you for
Yeah.
that, Lo.
It's like the Haunted Mansion meets The Shining.
Interesting kind of combo there. That's funny.
Yeah.
Have you read the Haunted Mansion books by Amicus Arcane? They're like, I think they're Disney like released, like Disney company, like thumbs up to these. I think they're like official Disney.
I have not. I am Googling that right now.
Because I think they have like really cute covers, and I think I've seen them. I think I'm like thinking of the thing that they're referencing here, and I think they like novelize the ride a little bit.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Okay, I am intrigued. Thank you for that.
I hadn't been to Disney World, let alone the Haunted Mansion there in over 30 years. So much has changed since 1991. Yeah, definitely. In Disney World, I'm sure because that's the more like newer and like amplified version of Haunted Mansion. Everything just from the pictures I've seen and videos, it just seems like so grandiose and larger than life compared to like the Disneyland one in Anaheim.
Fun little fact. I don't know if you know that there is a different version of Haunted Mansion at every park throughout the world. And they adapted them to like the cultures in those countries where they have them. So like I don't remember which park it is, but one of them they don't really like believe in ghosts in that culture, so they had to like readapt the ride to not be specifically about ghosts but be more magical. And I think like another one has like a theme of music throughout it. So like one of my bucket list like major big dreams would be to be able to travel to like all the Disney parks to experience the different versions of Haunted Mansion.
Oh, what a dream. Yes, I think the only other one I could actually name off the top of my head is like Phantom Manor, which I think is in Paris or Tokyo.
I am not sure, to be honest. I don't have them memorized.
This is
I
not
have
a
the
test.
list,
This is not a test.
but yeah, I know. Yeah, they're it's so cool. Like when I learned that they all had their own theme and like adapted to the cultures and stuff, it just sounds so cool to experience that. And to be able to say you've done like every version of the Haunted Mansion.
What a dream. Okay, well, we have some Haunted Mansion scholars in the house, so they have informed us.
Yeah.
It's Paris. I'd love to know if anybody in the chat box could actually name all of the Haunted Mansion rides and then the names of the rides and then the park they're associated with. I think there might be 5. I couldn't name them beyond those 3. Wait, I don't even know. What's the one in Haunted in the World park called? Is that Phantom Manor 2? Oh my god, I'm an embarrassment to all Haunted Mansion fans.
Let's see. I'm pulling it up because it's going to
Okay.
drive me crazy. The glory of having Google right in front of us.
I
Okay,
know.
so we have Haunted Mansion at Disneyland. And then, oh no, these pop-ups are getting me. And then we have Haunted Mansion. Wait, it's saying Haunted Mansion. Maybe this wasn't a great link to click.
Or maybe it's like the same one, but it's like just visually looks different. Maybe because it's like, oh, I think it is. Yeah, I think it's the same one. Yeah, I think it's the same name, but like it will look different. Um, hmm. Yeah. If anybody knows, because I feel like we have some.
Are you there? Oh, sorry, I think you were cutting off a little bit.
Oh, okay. I'm right here. Can you see me?
Okay, you're back.
Oh, cool, cool.
So we have Mystic Manor at Hong Kong Disneyland.
There we go.
Mystic Manor, and you were right about Phantom Manor in Paris.
Okay, cool. So it's the one in all the one in the United States, all the two. It's the same in the US, just looks different. Okay. So Haunted Mansion for both of those, Florida and Anaheim. Cool, cool. And that's a really good point, Monica, about the queue. It's like, okay, yes, I want to be able to go on the ride, but also like you don't want to wait, but like also they do a really good job of like creating a really good experience while you're in line. So it's like, you know, I don't mind
You're
waiting
like, I need
sometimes.
the line just right, not very
Yes.
long, not too short.
Just right. The Goldilocks line for me personally. Oh, this is referencing those I mentioned books. Let us know, like, did you like these books? Do they feel like they're is it YA, middle grade? I'd like to know because I like YA. I like middle grade books, especially if it's Haunted Mansion. So let us know.
Yeah.
And then friend worked on the Haunted Mansion movie. Okay, so freaking cool. Apparently, the spookiest thing about the production was Owen Wilson riding his squeaky bike around the back lot in costume in the evening. That is so funny. It's very much his
That is
character,
pretty
I would say.
funny. Yeah.
Um, as we wrap things up here, if you had to choose a rating, kind of create that rating, what would be your rating for this most recent movie? First of all, do you prefer, if you had to make this kind of decision, the 2003 version or the 2023 version? Which one would you think is like better?
I think they are both good in their own way, to be honest. The 2003 one was good for its time, but we kind of talked about how like spooky is in now. I think we've progressed a lot with how spooky things can be because I was actually really surprised with how spooky this movie actually was, considering they were still writing the line between like having kids watch it. So I do think they're both really good in their own way. I would say I probably prefer this new one. I think it just resonates a lot more as far as like the storytelling and the topics at hand. But I would give it probably 4 stars. I think that there were some improvements, opportunities for improvement, but also I really loved where they took the story. Like I loved that they made a cohesive story out of the ride and really stayed true to a lot of those things, like the 999 haunts. Constance Hatchaway wasn't like there were just so many things that they really included in it that I think it's hard not to love it. Like I really, really loved what they did with it. And I am really hoping for a sequel, to be honest. I have my theories on that I mentioned on my podcast.
Yeah, definitely give Mandy's podcast, which is visual on YouTube, give that a watch or a listen. I wholeheartedly agree with you. I do prefer the newer version. Like the storyline had so much heart and like real humanness to it that you really did feel connected. And if you love the ride, or at least know it, you really enjoy the movie. Like this movie was made for people who like the ride. I think that's like super evident and super clear. Between the two movies, though, which one do you think had the best atmosphere, the best setting, the best vibes that really kind of align or feel closely to the ride itself?
So I actually do think the first one had the better like set pieces and props, but I think that the lighting didn't let it be spooky enough, if that makes sense. Like it was so
Mhm.
bright that it didn't bring the spookiness to it. And I really loved like the lighting and cinematography of this new one. But I noticed that we lost some of the like even the purple wallpaper, like you couldn't tell it was like actually purple unless you like really look closely, because they were being so true to like in lighting and cinematography, like that's truly how it would look, but also it didn't really let like the playfulness and colors of the ride actually show at the same time for that reason. So I feel like they're both writing like different lines, if that makes sense for me.
100% makes total sense. I think that the plot of the movie for the first one in 2003 really took you through the house, and it became a fleshed out setting where we got to see things. And I do not feel like the more recent one was as focused or like prioritized that as much.
Yeah. Yeah, because I heard so many people saying like it's like you're going through the ride in this one, and I don't really feel that that is accurate for this one as much as it was for the 2003 one. Especially like at the beginning, how they set it up with like the candelabras floating. Like that scene was done so well, in my opinion, in the original one, and in this new one, like it kind of felt like a much like less prominent scene, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I feel like the only way that this more recent movie feels like the vibe of the Haunted Mansion ride, in the sense that like the movie starts off really serious and scary with like that constant hatchway scene and the heaviness of the grief of one of our main characters. And then it gets really light, and the ending seems very light and kid friendly and stuff. I think that's the only way it really works out, because the Haunted Mansion ride is like super scary and serious in the beginning, and then it gets really silly and playful. I think that kind of is mimicked in the movie, the more recent one.
Yeah, and I definitely feel, and that's where I felt like it is kind of like the ride, because like that entire setup almost feels like when you're like going through the like queue and through the stretching room where you're like slowly starting to take in like what am I getting into? And then for me, when that first like water sea ghost appears with Ben, is where like that's where it's like, oh, the ride's taking off now. So I feel like it did have that feel, but the other one felt like the actual ride, like once you're in the ride already, if that makes sense.
Oh yes, absolutely, yeah. So I think that they both kind of like they give you different things. They give you definitely different experiences.
For sure.
Okay, so Nightshade Butterfly got back to us saying that the books are YA and the first two focus on a group of teens or preteens. Okay, I can read that. I'll definitely read that. If you're doing the full tour, you need to go to Walt Disney's actual mansion in Los Feliz. It's open for tours and supposedly inspired certain rooms at Anaheim. Okay, I didn't know that. That's cool. Monica liked this one better because it was spookier. I wasn't that into the romance storyline in the Eddie Murphy version. Okay, one thing that irks me, because like this is like the history nerd in me, I feel like they kind of like, I had questions about why they left it so ambiguous as to why maybe this is too spoilery for this movie, but I don't know. I just didn't like that they didn't. There was like a certain issue with the romance, and in the movie, like there's tension around it, and I just feel like they didn't flesh out the time period enough to give you like historical information. You know what I mean? Like what I mean, Mandy?
I think so.
Yeah, they didn't like include important historical context that would not make this a light, silly movie for kids. About why some people didn't
Yeah.
want that romance to happen. So I'll keep it at that because I don't want to spoil anything. I need to see the new one. I wasn't a fan of the first one because I'm a spooky girl and it was too cute. You may like this newer one. If the movie was serious and scary, I wouldn't want to watch it. I prefer slightly spooky and funny elements. Would you watch a more horror, like up, Haunted Mansion movie if that was like more of the reiteration of it?
1,000%. I was really hoping that's what we were going to get, to be honest, but I understand why we didn't. But I do like the more serious topics they brought up in this film. I was actually really excited to hear your thoughts about it, because I know you've always been such a big advocate about talking about like grief and stuff in movies. And I thought that it just brought a lot of really important topics to light, but still balanced that like heaviness and playfulness with it that the ride does. but I would have really, really loved to see Guillermo del Toro's version. But I know they felt it was too dark. So I don't know. I feel like maybe eventually we will get it though. Like it's all leading up to that.
Yeah, maybe if like there's that call, that push for it from people after, maybe they look at the reviews and like people's critiques, maybe they see patterns of people wanting something a little bit more quirky and a little bit darker, which I think are two attributes of his work specifically. Like he took a
Mhm.
Pinocchio story and made it a little darker, but like it still was so heartwarming. Like I cried at the end of Pinocchio, which is a claymation story that he
Oh,
directed. So
I've been wanting to watch it. I'm glad you said that.
yeah, you should watch it. It also kind of deals with themes of like themes of grief and growing up, kind of coming of age, family dynamics in a way. I find it to just be so freaking cute.
Awesome. It's on my list.
Interesting that some people think this more recent one is too cute for their liking. So maybe not. Maybe the person who oh, gotcha. Okay, it's the same person. Okay, cool. The second one was eh. And then I'm not really a horror movie person. Sorry, Mandy. So they like more of like so this might be more of your jam because it's like definitely spooky and it does have a little bit of atmosphere that is very much like kind of calling back to the ride. And if you know the ride, it'll be so fun just trying to like find all those like Easter eggs and all those things.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So is there any last things you wanted to highlight about the Haunted Mansion ride or the movie? Any last final thoughts for us as we kind of close the little dark pearly gates of the estate?
No, I think we've covered most of it. I think the only thing that I haven't mentioned that I didn't even mention in my podcast was that I thought it was really cool that they used two of the original Imagineers for the rides names for Gracie and Crump. I actually didn't remember that until recently, so I thought that that was like a really nice tribute for like Disney nerds watching it. And like the one missed opportunity I felt this movie had was using like one of the other haunted mansion rides we mentioned, like Phantom Manor or Mystic. Was that what it was called? Mystic Manor. Using those for that like second mansion that is shown in the movie instead of the one that we got, I think would have just been such a cool way to like bring like diversity and like unify more of the world together. To show that would have been like really awesome in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe that could be in the sequel, along with like a hatchet wielding Constance. That's my personal missed opportunity of this movie. And I didn't realize that Crump Manor was a callback, a reference to that Imagineer until my boyfriend brought it up like a few days after we had watched it. And I was like, damn, where are you coming in with like this Haunted Mansion knowledge?
Yeah.
Okay, one up
Yeah,
in
that was pretty
me.
cool. Oh, and I will say too that I stayed till the end because I really, really believed that you were gonna hear a hurry back at the end and like after the credits, and they did not do that. So I'm very upset they didn't do
Okay,
that.
actually, we almost waited because I went with my family. We almost waited, but I was like, like the people are kind of coming to clean up. I want to be like mindful of that. But you waited to the end. Did anything show up on the screen?
No, nothing. It would have just been so perfect to just hear like hurry back and like that's it. That's all we would have needed to really like close the cohesiveness of it.
Yeah, and like maybe like a little gate closing kind of thing. Just
Yeah.
like, oh, well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here, Mandy, hanging out as we just kind of celebrate the release of this movie and just kind of have an opportunity to talk all things Haunted Mansion, which is something I want to do more on my channel. And then thank you all so much in the chat box for being such like an awesome, like engaging group of people that hang out with. It's so nice to connect with folks who also love this ride and want to talk about it. And then also thank you to the folks who are watching this on the playback. Definitely leave a comment responding to any of our questions down in the comments. We definitely love to hear from you. And if you haven't already, definitely give Mandy a follow. And then also listen/watch to her podcast episode that's on her YouTube channel that goes way more in depth into Haunted Mansion in a very well produced video that is like so cool. So I love that you're getting back to the podcast there.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for being here, folks. Have a restful and smooth rest of your day as we go back into the week. Thank
Thank you
you.
for having me. Bye.